Welcome to Crime Prevention Works. I'm Tessie Ajala. On Crime Prevention Works, we believe that crime prevention should be a collective act of responsibility, everyone's business. This is the second show in our series of refugees or victims of crime. They need help. It is our mission on this show to create more awareness about the plight of refugees in the United States and those around the world. Persecuted, they fled their homes, leaving everything they have acquired in their lifetime, and they became stranded in the middle of nowhere with their families, or some in refugee camps, to be resettled to other countries. Since the enactment of the United States Refugee Act of 1980 by the U.S. Congress, the President was authorized to approve and admit certain amount of refugees into the United States. And since the 1980 Refugee Act, the U.S. has resettled refugees from more than 120 countries around the world. That's right. Did you know that? Refugee admissions into the United States has varied over the years, from 50,000 a year to upwards of 70,000 until 2015. And the ceiling has been raised in 2016 to 85,000, as stated in the Presidential Determination for Refugee Admissions. Many of these refugees live in this community. They live in your communities out there. Millions are naturalized citizens. Some are seasoned professionals in medicine and law, academia, civil service. Some are government workers, teachers, entrepreneurs, and even in our armed forces. Now, what's the point of all this? Well, the point is refugees are not criminals, people. They are people oppressed and persecuted in one form or another, and they ran for their lives. Some of them ended up here in the United States and many around the world. Refugees are not criminals. They're victims of crime. So why the backlash about not resettling refugees in the United States anymore because they might be terrorists? We have lots of Afghan, Iraqis, Southeast Asians, and African refugees in this country. They are not terrorists. They're all mostly good human beings like you and I, just making a living, making a good life in America. Again, in every culture, there is the good and there is the bad, and that's life. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here are some of the directors of the United States Office of Refugee Resettlement within the Administration for Children and Families in the Department of Health and Human Services. We have resettled refugees forever in this country, people. As a matter of fact, America absorbs more refugees than any other country in the world, period. And we are safe. Before refugees come to America, people, they go through criminal background checks. They do. They get vetted, they get screened, and they get cleared before they get on the plane. Yes, they get on the plane. They mostly fly to America, unlike the ones that cross our borders willy-nilly. But having said that, there are bad people everywhere. in our places of work, in our schools, in our neighborhoods, even in our churches and mosques. Yes, but the good outweighs the bad all the time. The good triumphs over the bad. And if you are a refugee, out there and you have any evil intentions against the United States, just know that Big Brother's watching you. It is only going to be a matter of time. And to all of our community members, if you see something, say something. Now, having said that, America is a beacon of hope for the oppressed. We must continue to help refugees that do need our help. They become successful when we do, and they also become productive members of our communities when we support them. And that brings us to our guest today on this show on Crime Prevention Works. She's originally from Iraq, a former refugee, Ms. Rana Jafar Yassin. She's the founder and CEO of Change Maker Inspiration, a poet, an author, and a television host. You're welcome into the program.
Hi, Tessie. Thank you so much for having me here.
It's so good to have you. Thank you so much. I was conducting some research about you. I read a lot about you in your books and all of your activities, and I just think you're a phenomenal human being.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. So, well, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're originally from Iraq, right?
Yes, I'm originally from Iraq.
And you came to the United States from Egypt, I understand. But you were, what happened? Tell me, what's your story?
I was born in Baghdad in 1980, and I spent 26 years in Baghdad. In 2006, I was kidnapped with my elderly aunt by a militia. Their name is Fidai Saddam, and because if we didn't pay, they're gonna kill us.
So did you have to pay them?
I didn't have money at that time. So I just have $5,000 because we sold a lot of our stuff. We decided to leave Iraq after the chaos in 2006. We were preparing to travel. Mm-hmm. So we have just $5,000 and they took it.
They took your money and then they let you go.
Yeah.
So is that how you ended up in Egypt?
I moved to Egypt with my aunt, and I spent 7 years in Egypt. Then I started this procedure of being a refugee and asked for resettlement. Then in 2013, I came here.
It's amazing what refugees go through, people all over the world. It's amazing the kind of atrocities that refugees go through, the victims of crime in different ways, shapes and forms, and failed states around the world. And some of them don't make it, some of them do make it. And my guest here is one of the very lucky few ones that made it out of those atrocious situations.
Tessie, you said at the beginning that we run for our life.
Yes.
And that's the truth. Actually, we found one day that our homeland were taken.
Wow.
So we just need to have safe life. We want to pursue our goals because I believe every person in this life.
So which refugee resettlement authority in Egypt processed you to come to the United States? And for the sake of our viewers at home, let's talk about how you were vetted. What kind of background checks were conducted to clear you to come to America?
The UNHCR has a big office in Egypt. And that was open to Iraqi people who fled to Egypt. Mm-hmm. So it's a process. We need to apply, and there's a lot of documents and interviews. They ask a lot of questions. So it's a long process of checking and making sure that the person is eligible to be a refugee.
What kind of documents did you bring with you from Iraq to Egypt that enabled the authorities to clear you?
I have a lot of things about my career because before working as a TV host, I used to work as a journalist.
I see.
So there's a lot of things with journalists.
So you had a lot of your work portfolio to show that you're a legitimate person. Now, do you believe in the news now in the United States, there's a lot of noise about the fact that we're bringing in refugees into America and we don't know who they are, and we're putting our lives in danger. What would you like to tell the American people watching this show about that statement?
First of all, there's a long process for checking their background and their stories, so it's not easy to be accepted as a refugee to come to the United States. And that's what happened with me and with a lot of people that I know. So it's a longer process, and they are making sure of everything.
They're checking everything out to be sure that you're a legitimate refugee and not some affiliate of Al Qaeda or ISIS or anything like that. Before, how long did that process take from the beginning of vetting until you were cleared? How long did that take?
It took 5 years.
5 years. Is that an average amount of years it takes for somebody to be cleared before they come to America?
Some people takes maybe less, and some other longer.
I see. Wow.
It depends on the situation and the circumstances in the country. For say in the United States, as you mentioned, sometimes they raise the ceiling of refugees, and sometimes the number is limited. So it depends on that too.
Yeah, I'm glad that you made that very clear, so that viewers at home, community members know that yes, we bring refugees into the United States from other parts of the world, but as a matter of fact, the United States government does terrific job clearing refugees. The U.S. Department, the Homeland Security, Department of State work together hand in hand, and together with the Immigration Service to clear people, and they do a lot of work to check them out before they come to the United States. So we have a lot of legitimate people as refugees, supposed to the ones that cross the borders in the South willy-nilly, that we don't know who they are. So we need community members to know that refugees are victims of crime from other countries. They're legitimate immigrants, they're legal immigrants, and they need our help. I believe that you are going to be a very successful person because I see that you have the spirit. And thank you so much for coming into the show.
Thank you, Tessie. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this episode of Crime Prevention Works. We preach prevention instead of reaction on this show. And this is because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I'm sure you'll agree with me on that. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time.